Humanity finally claims victory, but the ruins of the city tell a much darker story. Night falls over the neon-lit streets, hiding the horrors lurking beneath the city's vibrant surface. Inside a club, a guy tries to make a move on a woman, clearly overconfident. She looks back with a dazed expression, totally unimpressed by his pathetic attempt at charm. Undeterred, he leans in for the kill, completely oblivious to the nightmare about to unfold. Suddenly, a monstrous appendage erupts from her, turning his romantic gesture into a total disaster. That tentacle strikes with lethal precision, proving that flirting with strangers is a terrible idea. Chaos erupts as the woman reveals her true terrifying form, leaving everyone else in shock. Blood splatters everywhere, marking the end of the guy's night and his very short life. Morning light hits a quiet house where Fuma Akai arrives to start his new life. His neighbor peers through the door, looking like she has not slept in about 3 decades. Standing tall in his suit, Fuma tries to make a good impression despite the circumstances. Introducing himself as the new neighbor, Fuma gets a cold shoulder from the tired woman. Stepping inside, he finally feels at home, unaware of the chaos waiting for him. Mitsuru Akai stands there fuming, clearly hating the idea of moving to the big city. Fuma tries to explain his dream of city life, but she is having absolutely none. Warning her to act normal at school, he tries to keep her ego in check. She remains convinced of her own charm, ignoring his advice with a smug little grin. Realizing the time, Mitsuru panics and shoves Fuma out the door to avoid being late. Sprinting down the street, they rush towards school, leaving their peaceful morning far behind them. Fuma and Mitsuru sprint through traffic, apologizing to everyone while desperately racing towards school. Reaching the gates, they beg the guard to let them in before the bell rings. Rikuhara Junior High looms ahead, a massive building that marks their new, chaotic starting line. Bursting into the office, Fuma apologizes profusely for their tardiness, acting like a total pushover. Waving goodbye, Fuma tells Mitsuru to behave while he heads off to his own business. Mitsuru beams with excitement, completely ignoring her father's desperate plea for a normal school day. Mocking his constant apologies, she calls him a total pushover behind his back, zero respect. Stepping into the classroom, Mitsuru prepares to make her grand entrance as the new student. Striking a pose, she introduces herself with way too much energy for a Monday morning. Bragging about her cooking and celebrity crush, she demands everyone be her friend immediately. Silence fills the room as the class stares, totally baffled by her bizarre, loud behavior. This teacher forces a round of applause while Mitsuru stands there looking absolutely mortified. Watching from the back, a mysterious blonde girl observes the newcomer with a creepy smile. Overwhelmed by the awkward attention, Mitsuru realizes this school life is a total disaster zone. Pointing to a desk, the teacher tells her to sit down and finally start class. Girl with glasses leans over, excitedly bonding with Mitsuru over their shared celebrity crush. Smiling wide, Mitsuru feels relieved to have finally made a friend named Shinkai. Life as a transfer student officially begins with a bird flying over the quiet school. Chatting away, Mitsuru listens intently as Shinkai shares some local gossip about the school grounds. Warning her about the haunted storage shed, Shinkai describes mysterious winds that flip skirts up. Eerie, ghostly hands reach out from the shadows, haunting the school's dark, neglected corners. Mitsuru dismisses the local ghost stories as total nonsense, clearly unimpressed by the school gossip. Suddenly, a group of bullies looms over her desk, looking for a target to torment. Demanding she run errands, the lead bully tries to assert dominance over the new student. Mitsuru just sighs, already bored by these predictable, small-minded power plays in her new school. Standing up to them, she snaps back, completely unfazed by their pathetic attempt at intimidation. Enraged by her attitude, the bully slams the desk, ready to escalate this petty conflict. Shinkai frantically tries to de-escalate, apologizing for Mitsuru's behavior while looking terrified of the consequences. Whispering a warning, Shinkai explains that the Aido family holds way too much power here. Ignoring the threat, Mitsuru remains calm, asking the bullies what flavor of juice they want. Smirking, the bullies think they have finally broken her spirit, totally blinded by their arrogance. Walking down the hall with her drink, Mitsuru contemplates the promise she made to Fuma. Something catches her eye, forcing her to stop and look toward the nearby restroom. Inside, she finds the bullies cornering Shinkai, their cruelty on full display in the shadows. Poor Shinkai is curled on the floor, weeping as she gets kicked by the bullies. Mitsuru stares in shock, her patience finally snapping as she witnesses this brutal, unfair treatment. Charging in, she screams at the bullies, demanding to know why they are hurting Shinkai. Aido stands over the victim, looking smug as she claims Mitsuru arrived at the perfect time. Pressuring her, Aido forces Mitsuru to pour the juice over Shinkai if she wants to leave. Threatening her with dire consequences, the bullies laugh, waiting to see if Mitsuru will break. Someone tries to lecture Mitsuru, but she is clearly not in the mood for advice. Mitsuru snaps back with a literal bite, showing exactly how much she respects their authority. Aido shrieks in genuine pain, realizing this transfer student is absolutely not playing by the rules. Chaos erupts as the bullies scramble, shocked that their target actually fought back with teeth. Tensions shift to the principal's office, where the atmosphere is thick with impending academic doom. This principal loses his cool, threatening expulsion if Mitsuru keeps causing such a massive scene. Fuma steps in to play the humble guardian, promising to keep his sister in line. Walking home, Fuma demands the truth about why Mitsuru started such a public, messy fight. Mitsuru explains her friend was being bullied, but Fuma just wants her to stay invisible. Apologies flow from Mitsuru, though Fuma knows her track record for staying out of trouble. Night falls over the school building, casting long shadows over the place of their misery. A locker door sits damaged and stained, hinting at the dark secrets hidden inside school. Mitsuru investigates the suspicious locker, finding something truly foul waiting in the dark, damp depths. Disgust fills her face as she uncovers the trash, realizing the extent of the harassment. Suddenly, the bullies corner her again, demanding she follow them to a more private location. They drag her toward the old storage shed, a place where no one hears screams. Inside the dark shed, the bullies surround her with glowing eyes, looking absolutely unhinged now. Aido gloats about the finger bite, threatening expulsion while her goons loom in the shadows. Mitsuru sits on the floor, looking surprisingly calm while asking what their next move is. Aido seethes with pure rage, her patience completely gone as she prepares to strike back. Aido loses her mind, screaming for her goons to beat Mitsuru into the ground. Mitsuru does not hesitate, launching a lightning-fast strike that catches the lead bully off guard, landing a solid hit that sends shockwaves through the entire storage shed. But the bullies just double down, threatening to hurt Shinkai if Mitsuru keeps resisting. She snaps, delivering a brutal counterattack that leaves the aggressors reeling in total disbelief. Silence finally falls as Mitsuru asserts dominance, though the atmosphere remains thick with malice. Yet the violence is not over, as a sudden, sickening impact leaves Mitsuru bloodied and dazed. Aido cackles, mocking her for being stupid enough to defend a friend she barely knows. Pulling out her phone, she starts recording, ready to ruin Mitsuru's life for good. This goons swarm in, grabbing Mitsuru and pinning her down while they prepare their assault. Aido leans in close, whispering threats about Mitsuru's home life and her unsuspecting father. She keeps digging, spewing vile insults about Mitsuru's parents to break her spirit. Grinning like a total maniac, Aido revels in the misery she is inflicting right now. Suddenly, a massive crushing blow lands, turning the tables in a spray of red. This shadows shift, revealing a terrifying presence that looms over the cowering bullies. Dark, unnatural energy begins to drip from the ceiling, pooling on the floorboards. An eerie red glow consumes the school, signaling that something ancient has finally awakened. Monstrous, shadowy limbs stretch across the sky, casting a nightmare over the entire building. Aido freezes in absolute terror, realizing the monster she provoked is far beyond human. Spectral hands emerge from the void, reaching out to claim everyone trapped in this shed. Mitsuru screams in denial as shadowy claws reach out, clearly not ready for this nightmare. Panic sets in for the students, their faces pale as the reality of death looms. A massive horned entity rises from the wreckage, dwarfing everyone in the schoolyard with ease. Realization hits the terrified onlookers. This is no ghost story. It is a genuine, lethal monster. Sticky, dark residue drips from the structure, sealing their fate in this twisted, haunted trap. Mitsuru stares into the void, her eyes wide as the supernatural pressure begins to mount. That towering beast unleashes a roar, shaking the very foundations of the school to dust. This storage shed disintegrates entirely, leaving no place left to hide from the encroaching darkness. Debris flies everywhere as the creature tears through the walls, showing off its raw power. Fuma watches from afar, his heart sinking as he realizes the school is literally exploding. Mitsuru is thrown back by the blast, struggling to keep her footing amidst the chaos. Impact forces her against the fence, the sheer force of the strike leaving her reeling. Glass shatters as the entity smashes through the windows, hunting for its next easy meal. Students scatter in terror, their school day turning into a desperate fight for mere survival. Swarms of lesser ghouls crawl from the black sludge, surrounding the area in total darkness. A young girl sprints for her life, pursued by nightmarish shadows hungry for her soul. That giant demon looms over the fleeing crowd, relishing the fear radiating from every student. Hunger burns in the monster's glowing red eyes, savoring the scent of fresh human panic. Darkness swallows the school grounds, with the massive beast leading its army of twisted spirits. One final, sweeping strike clears the path, leaving the survivors with nowhere left to run. Mitsuru realizes the supernatural threat is spiraling out of control, a total nightmare scenario. Sprinting through the corridors, she tries to put distance between herself and the horror. Shinkai catches up, clearly terrified as the school turns into a literal death trap. Panic sets in while they confirm the danger is hunting every student in sight. Behind them, a horde of ghouls closes the gap, making their situation look hopeless. Mitsuru spots the chaos unfolding in the halls, wondering how things got this bad. Terror grips her as the monstrous entities gain ground, hungry for their next victim. Suddenly, a massive horned demon smashes through the walls, blocking their only escape route. Debris rains down as the school structure begins to crumble under the creature's weight. Screaming in fear, Mitsuru grabs her friend and bolts, desperate to survive the carnage. That towering beast lands with earth-shattering force, shaking the very foundation of the building. Blood stains the monster's claws, proving that no one is safe from its reach. A guard yells about running in the halls, completely oblivious to the impending doom. Shadows swarm around the confused guard, turning his authority into a very short lifespan. Mitsuru carries Shinkai to safety, ignoring the guards who are just as doomed as everyone. Glass shatters as she makes a break for the exit, narrowly dodging the destruction. This demon pauses, annoyed by the tiny humans scurrying around like ants in trouble. Crouching low, the beast prepares to unleash another wave of pure, unadulterated school-wide chaos. Launching itself forward, the creature turns the hallway into a graveyard of concrete dust. Impact follows as a massive limb slams down, sealing the fate of the school. That massive demon towers over Mitsuru and Shinkai, looking like a total nightmare fuel. Mitsuru scrambles across the cracking floor, screaming that she is the only target here. But the beast just wants more snacks, reaching out with those razor-sharp, lethal claws. Her boots hit the debris as she desperately tries to keep her balance running. Panic hits her face when she realizes the monster is locked onto her specifically. Shinkai gets dragged along for the ride, clearly not enjoying this high-stakes cardio session. She cries out as the demon lunges, turning their escape into a disaster. That giant hand grabs her mid-sprint, squeezing tight like a stress ball from hell. Blood sprays as the creature bites down, proving that being the protagonist is painful. Red eyes glow with pure malice, savoring the taste of its latest human victim. Chaos reigns as the school becomes a literal slaughterhouse, limbs flying everywhere in sight. Fuma finally arrives on the scene, looking sharp but clearly ready for some violence. This school building groans under the pressure, looking ready to collapse into total rubble. That demon eyes Fuma's blade, recognizing the weapon from some dark, forgotten past life. No way, the monster mutters, realizing exactly who just walked into its hunting ground. It growls, finally understanding that its easy meal just became the hunter. Fuma stands tall amidst the flames, carrying the wounded girl like a total boss. Dark energy crackles in the air, signaling that the real fight is about starting. Police cruiser idles outside, signaling that the neighborhood is officially a crime scene. Mitsuru wakes up in a daze, clearly having no clue what just went down. Confusion hits her hard as she realizes she is back home, totally disoriented and lost. Fuma bursts in, apron and all, looking like he just survived a total nervous breakdown. Absolute panic radiates from him, screaming about how he thought he lost her forever. Mitsuru shuts him down, calling his dramatic, crying face out for being totally lame. Apologetic and pathetic, Fuma just crumbles, proving he is the ultimate pushover of the family. Worry consumes him as he tries to process the sheer danger Mitsuru just faced. She plays it cool, but Fuma warns her that using powers is a massive mistake. Pointing fingers, Mitsuru rants about the bullies who started this whole mess, zero accountability. Heartbreak hits her as she realizes she is the only one without a mother. Guilt tears Fuma apart, blaming himself for everything that led to this disaster. Something monstrous claws at the wall, proving the nightmare followed them right home. Outside their window, a hideous, multi-eyed creature clings to the building like a parasite. That beast lets out a low, guttural growl, hungry for whatever is inside there. Fuma and Mitsuru lock eyes, both sensing that something is definitely not right anymore. A knock at the door echoes through the apartment, chilling them to the bone. Mitsuru approaches the entrance, wondering who would be visiting at such a cursed hour. Two shady guys in suits wait outside, looking like they are here for business. Fuma shoves Mitsuru behind him, ready to protect her from whatever fresh hell awaits. Two mysterious men in suits knock on the door, asking if anyone is home. Mitsuru answers the door, looking confused as they claim to be from the police. Fuma invites the strangers inside for tea, keeping his guard up in his own home. These visitors demand answers about the school explosion, pressing Mitsuru for every single detail. Fuma comforts a nervous Mitsuru as she claims she only remembers running for safety. This interrogator leans in closer, pushing her to recall anything else from that chaotic day. One of the men sits silently, his presence looming large as he observes the room. Mitsuru stares blankly, clearly struggling to process the traumatic events of the school disaster. That blonde man smiles thinly, urging her to share even the most unrealistic, frightening memories. Fuma snaps at the persistent visitor, asking if they have finally had enough questioning. Defending his sister, Fuma insists she needs rest and knows absolutely nothing about the incident. This blonde man smirks, claiming they need every scrap of info to catch the culprit. Fuma challenges their logic, asking why they are so sure the explosion was man-made. Realizing they are getting nowhere, the visitors decide to take their leave for now. Fuma watches them stand up, his tension remaining high despite their polite exit. Sensing dangerous mana coming from the briefcase, Fuma realizes these guys are total frauds. He spots a bandaged hand on the visitor, wondering what really caused that injury. Offering to carry the heavy bag, Fuma probes for a reaction from the suspicious man. This visitor dismisses the offer, claiming it is just a minor burn hiding his tracks. Fuma watches them walk away, knowing these fake cops are definitely up to no good. Fuma watches the suspicious duo leave, terrified they've already clocked Mitsuru's hidden supernatural strength. Those fake cops walk away, confirming their hunting for the exact power Mitsuru possesses. Back inside, Fuma checks on Mitsuru, his face etched with pure, unadulterated parental panic. Desperate to keep her safe, he begs her to stop drawing attention at school, but a hideous, multi-eyed monster is already crawling through their window, hungry for blood. That creature drops onto the bed, looking like a nightmare that refuses to leave. Drooling with malice, it prepares to strike, proving their home is no longer safe. Mitsuru stares at the beast, realizing the supernatural threat has followed them right inside. Morning arrives at Rikuhara Junior High, a place that feels like a ticking time bomb. Mitsuru waves goodbye to Fuma, ignoring his desperate plea to keep a low profile. Shinkai greets her, both girls oblivious to the chaos brewing just beneath the surface. Spotting Fuma nearby, Shinkai loses her mind, asking who that total hottie is supposed to be. Mitsuru looks annoyed, forced to explain that her dad is just being his usual self. Shinkai shrieks in disbelief, absolutely convinced that Fuma is actually a college-age big brother. Mitsuru plays along with a smug grin, claiming his workout routine keeps him looking young. Time ticks away at the school clock, marking the start of another potentially disastrous day. Nearby, a quiet coffee shop sits under the morning sun, hiding secrets in plain sight. Steam rises from a fresh cup as someone pours a drink with steady hands. Fuma works behind the counter, looking like he's trying to forget the previous night's horrors. Customers chat in the background, completely unaware that their barista is fighting a supernatural war. Mitsuru and her friend are hanging out, totally oblivious to the chaos brewing nearby. Fuma is stressed at the cafe, lamenting how his daughter always draws unwanted attention. A blonde woman enters the shop, looking like she is hunting for some trouble. Complaining about her husband, she tries to flirt with Fuma while he makes coffee. She drops a comment about him being a single dad digging for some dirt. Fuma serves her a drink, keeping his cool despite her obvious and annoying advances. Her hand lingers on his, a move that is honestly just painful to watch. She invites him to dinner, dangling an early clock-out time like a cheap bribe. Fuma politely declines, clearly preferring his boring life over dealing with her messy drama. Making an excuse about his daughter, he tries to escape the awkward conversation fast. She gets offended, accusing him of using his kid to dodge her pathetic date. Fuma stammers, trying to keep the peace while she stares him down with judgment. Begging to leave early for club activities, he finally manages to get her permission. Sprinting out of the cafe, he is clearly relieved to be done with her. He rushes down the street, passing a woman while his mind is on Mitsuru. Diving into a narrow alleyway, he takes the fastest route to reach his daughter. Running with intense focus, he pushes his speed to the absolute limit right now. Bouncing off the walls, he navigates the tight space like a total parkour pro. Landing on a rooftop, he prepares to cover the remaining distance in a flash. Charging across the building tops, he moves with a speed that defies all logic. Fuma launches himself across the city skyline, moving with desperate high-speed parkour intensity. Hitting the rooftops with heavy impacts, he tears through the urban maze. Eyes locked on his destination, Fuma sprints like his life depends on it. Reaching the school gates, he finds the area strangely quiet and ominous. Mitsuru waits by the entrance, her face pale as she realizes her dad is late. Anxiety spikes, she wonders if he hit a snag or something much worse. A black car pulls up and Mitsuru watches as a familiar face steps out. Those shady investigators from before corner her, flashing their fake, menacing smiles. Mitsuru calls them out, asking why they are bothering her yet again. This blonde man insists she needs to visit the station for questioning. She refuses, shouting that she is waiting for her father right now. They drop the bomb that her dad is already in trouble at the station. Panic takes over, Mitsuru demands they take her to him immediately. This blonde guy smirks, whispering that she is such a good girl. Gesturing to the car, he invites her to hop in for the ride. Mitsuru hesitates, but the trap is already closing in around her. This car doors shut, sealing her fate as they drive away. Fuma arrives just in time to see the vehicle speeding off with his daughter. He tears down the sidewalk, realizing he is far too late to stop them. Standing alone in the street, Fuma screams in frustration, wondering where Mitsuru went. Fuma stands outside the school, wondering why Mitsuru is taking so long to exit. Pacing back and forth, he mutters about the club activities running way too late. Tires screech on the pavement as a dark sedan drifts around the corner nearby. Speeding down the road, the vehicle makes a clean getaway with its hidden cargo. Mitsuru stares out the window, confused by the route the men are taking her. Sitting between the two shady suits, she realizes they are not heading to the station. Demanding they pull over, she gets nothing but a dismissive hum from the driver. One of the men pulls out a bottle, clearly planning to silence her fast. Smothering her with a cloth, he forces her into a deep, chemically induced sleep. Watching her drift off, the kidnappers exchange a look, their mission almost complete. Mocking her resistance, they settle in, thinking they have finally secured their prize. Fuma spots the car and charges, his apron flapping as he hits top speed. Inside the vehicle, the goons argue about the mess, regretting their reliance on drugs. Suddenly, Fuma lands on the roof with a crash, shattering the glass into dust. Screaming for his daughter, he radiates pure, unadulterated rage, eyes glowing with lethal intent. Ordering the goons to dump the kids and flee, he prepares to wreck them. Impact follows as he tears the car apart, sending the vehicle spinning into chaos. Landing on the asphalt, Fuma crouches low, ready to finish this fight in seconds. Scrambling out of the wreckage, the kidnapper tries to recover, his composure totally shattered. Fuma lunges with a flurry of strikes, showing exactly what happens to child snatchers. Fuma slams the kidnapper against the wall, grabbing him by the collar. Trading blows in a desperate brawl, Fuma refuses to let this guy escape. Locking arms in a tense struggle, he fights to keep the kidnapper pinned. Delivering a brutal knee strike, Fuma makes sure this goon feels every impact. This kidnapper winces in pain, his smug expression finally replaced by pure terror. Maintaining his relentless assault, Fuma keeps the pressure on with heavy, calculated strikes. Suddenly, a mysterious man in a suit appears, holding a briefcase of secrets. Opening the case, he reveals a pulsating, multi-eyed mass of organic shifting sludge. Fuma stares in total disbelief, his eyes widening at the sight of that horror. This stranger plucks an eyeball from the mass, preparing a nasty, supernatural surprise. Launching the eye at Fuma, it explodes into a thick, suffocating cloud of smoke. Coughing violently, Fuma tries to shield his face from the mysterious, toxic vapor. Vision blurring rapidly, he struggles to stay conscious as the world starts spinning. Darkness creeps in, Fuma muttering in frustration as his strength begins to fade. Collapsing against the wall, he finally succumbs to the effects of the gas. Waking up in a daze, Fuma gasps for air, his mind racing wildly. Surrounding him are the shady investigators, their cold stares piercing through the room. This lead man lights a cigarette, greeting Fuma with a chilling, hollow smile. Looking down at his wrists, Fuma realizes he is trapped in heavy handcuffs. Demanding answers about his arrest, he gets a blunt, terrifying confirmation from them. This interrogator flashes his badge, claiming Fuma was the sole person at the school explosion. Fuma loses his cool, shouting that he would never pull such a stunt at school. Desperate, he points out that a fake cop kidnapped his daughter and demands immediate help. That investigator just smirks, clearly not buying a single word of his frantic, loud protest. Another agent drops a bombshell, claiming Mitsuru is safe at home with his non-existent wife. Fuma stares in shock as they claim they found him passed out in an alley. Confusion hits him like a truck, his face twisting into pure, unadulterated, panicked disbelief. He yells that he has no wife, realizing his reality is being gaslit by professionals. Suspicion burns as he wonders if these agents are actually puppets for some darker force. This lead agent cuts him off, coldly ordering him to just get some much-needed rest. They start to walk out, planning to drag him to the agency after he cools. Silence fills the room as the door slams shut, leaving Fuma trapped in his bed. He rips the restraints off with ease, his patience for this bureaucratic nightmare completely gone. Determination hardens his gaze, Fuma swearing he will find and rescue Mitsuru at all costs. Peering through the door, he spots the agents whispering while they watch the hallway exit. Fuma waits for his opening, watching them bow to someone while he plots his escape. Scanning the room for a way out, he spots the window as his only path. Launching himself into the air, he plummets from the high floor toward the city street. Impacting the pavement with a massive shockwave, he lands in a perfect tactical combat crouch. Sprinting into the distance, Fuma vanishes into the city, ready to hunt down his daughter. Fuma spots an exit sign, hoping to finally escape this bizarre, twisted maze. Sprinting down the path, he desperately tries to find his way back to reality. Every turn looks the same, his panic rising as the exit remains just out of reach. Running until he is breathless, Fuma realizes this place is designed to keep him trapped. Exhaustion hits him hard, but he refuses to give up on finding his daughter. Staring at the sign again, he realizes he is running in circles, total nightmare fuel. Suddenly, his energy flares, Fuma tapping into something deep to break this supernatural hold. Realizing he is locked in an alternate dimension, he prepares to shatter the barrier. Screaming for Mitsuru, he focuses all his power on tearing through the fake school walls. Meanwhile, the kidnappers carry a limp Mitsuru into a dark, abandoned industrial complex. Walking through the ruins, they seem completely unbothered by the girl's unconscious state. Reaching the center of the warehouse, they drop her off like a piece of cargo. One of the men kneels beside her, checking if the sedative is still working. Confirming the target is ready, he announces that the offering has finally been delivered. A horrifying, eye-covered mass emerges, slithering toward the girl with hungry, unnatural intent. This blonde man smirks, bragging about the quality of their latest, high-class supernatural product. That creature hisses, clearly annoyed by the state of Mitsuru's clothes, total diva monster. Demanding to know if they hit any snags, the beast eyes them with suspicion. These men look nervous, sweating under the gaze of their terrifying, multi-eyed boss. Admitting there was some interference, they assure the monster that the problem is solved. These goons brag about sealing their victim away, totally oblivious to the incoming storm. This school building looms, a silent witness to the supernatural mess unfolding inside its walls. Fuma drops into a combat stance, ready to tear this dimension apart for his daughter. He realizes the only way out is to find the knot holding this reality together. Staring at the door, he senses the barrier between worlds beginning to crack and fray. Screaming in pure frustration, he channels his rage into a single, focused burst of power. Suddenly, the goons burst in, wondering what kind of chaos is shaking their secret hideout. A multi-eyed monster recoils in shock, realizing its prey is actually a lethal armed hunter. Fuma leaps into the air, blade drawn and ready to slice through the supernatural filth. This creature shrieks as he lands, his speed and aggression catching it completely off guard. Delivering a crushing blow, he slams into the monster, forcing it to taste real pain. Blood sprays across the floor as the beast collapses, its arrogance shattered by his blade. Fuma holds the creature at sword point, demanding the truth about where his daughter is hidden. His eyes burn with lethal intent, forcing the terrified monster to answer his desperate plea. Trembling, the creature admits it was only following orders from a much higher power. Fuma presses the blade closer, screaming for the name of the one who gave orders. Lord Hyakume is revealed as the mastermind, while the school ruins smolder in the distance. Back at his desk, Fuma digs for answers, his focus shifting to the digital underworld. This monster warns that Hyakume is a spirit world entity, far beyond any human's puny strength. Staring at the dark web, Fuma realizes he needs a password to unlock the truth. Fuma surveys the wreckage, noting the shady business that went down in this ruin. Mitsuru lies unconscious on the cold floor, completely unaware of the danger surrounding her. Gently lifting her, Fuma decides it is time to get his sister out of here. Moonlight casts long, eerie shadows over the abandoned site as they make their escape. Footsteps echo through the darkness, someone tracking the aftermath of the recent supernatural brawl. A heavy boot crushes the remains of a fallen monster, showing no mercy whatsoever. This mysterious observer inspects the carnage, his hand gripping the defeated creature's jaw tightly. Reporting back, the man in the suit confirms their team was wiped out completely. A monstrous, multi-eyed entity shrieks through the phone, demanding to know if anyone survived. This agent points to a terrified woman cowering in the corner, asking for orders. Lilia breaks down in tears, her spirit shattered by the absolute horror she witnessed. Coldly, the man pulls out a butterfly knife, his demeanor shifting into pure malice. He corners Lilia, the blade glinting as he demands to know who caused this. Begging for her life, she promises to do anything if he just puts it away. A sinister grin spreads across his face, the name Lilia dripping with dark intent. Taunting her, he calls out her habit of lying, the knife hovering dangerously close. A final, desperate scream echoes from the warehouse, swallowed by the cold night air. Back in her bedroom, Mitsuru sleeps soundly, oblivious to the nightmare that just unfolded. Her eyes snap open, the lingering dread of the vision finally pulling her awake. Sitting up in bed, she wonders if the entire ordeal was just a dream. Mitsuru wakes up in a total funk, complaining about her rough start to the day. She senses something weird, but shakes it off as she hops out of her bed. Fuma is already in the kitchen, serving up a breakfast that smells like pure heaven. She cheers for those legendary croquettes, completely forgetting the nightmare she just had moments ago. Meanwhile, Fuma is busy in his own reality, absolutely wrecking some goons in a fight. He stands over the defeated scrubs, looking like he's ready to take on the world. A blade flashes, ready to finish the job before things get any more complicated today. Standing tall, Fuma looms over his enemies, making sure they stay down for the count. He draws his weapon, staring down the last guy who thought he could win. That terrified goon realizes he messed with the wrong guy, his eyes wide with panic. Elsewhere, a sleek car tears down the mountain road, speeding towards some dark hidden destination. Tires screeching on the asphalt, the driver pushes the vehicle to its absolute dangerous limit. Laughing like a maniac, the passenger celebrates their latest haul, totally oblivious to the danger. He lights a cigarette, gloating about the massive profit they are about to make today. Sitting in the back, his partner grumbles about how much he hates their current target. This lead agent taps his briefcase, clearly hiding something that is definitely not for sale. He glances over, checking if their cargo is still secure in the back of car. Hands resting on the case, he feels the contents shifting, a sign of trouble ahead. Back in the heat of battle, Fuma raises his sword, ready to deliver justice. He strikes with lethal precision, ending the threat before it can even blink an eye. Fuma goes full whirlwind, slicing through the goons like he's chopping up salad greens. One thug stares at his shattered box, realizing his big plan just hit a wall. Blood splatters everywhere as Fuma's blade finds its mark, leaving the bad guys totally stunned. He does not hold back, driving his sword home while the goons scramble in pure panic. A car peels away, desperate to escape the carnage Fuma is leaving in his wake. Fuma is not letting anyone slide, demanding to know where his daughter is being held captive. Grabbing a thug by the hair, he forces an answer out of the trembling coward. That abandoned warehouse looms ahead, a creepy setting for the final showdown of the night. A multi-eyed monster watches the chaos unfold on its phone, clearly not a happy camper. Fuma stands tall against the remaining goons, his glowing blade cutting through the dim light. Meanwhile, the monster kicks a woman aside, showing off its truly charming and polite personality. Surrounded by armed thugs, Fuma looks completely unbothered, ready to turn them into floor decorations. He points his sword at the mastermind, asking if he's the one pulling the strings. That eye-covered freak just shrugs, acting like the lives of its goons do not matter anyway. This monster screams at its lackeys to stop daydreaming and finally take Fuma out. Charging in with everything they have, the goons try to swarm our favorite angry dad. Fuma plants his blade into the concrete, a total power move to start the brawl. Staring down the mob, he promises that they are the ones about to get shredded. A lightning-fast kick sends one of the thugs flying, proving Fuma does not need just steel. Swords clash as the fight turns into a chaotic mess with Fuma dominating the field. Fuma delivers a brutal, face-shattering punch to the goon, zero hesitation in his eyes. Two more thugs rush him with baseball bats, clearly underestimating the angry barista dad. He effortlessly slams one attacker into the ground, turning the pavement into a crater. Finishing the job with a final, crushing blow, Fuma leaves the remaining goons trembling. Back home, Mitsuru happily stuffs her face with croquettes, completely oblivious to the recent carnage. Fuma dotes on her, acting like the world's most supportive and slightly overbearing big brother. She complains about needing meat to grow, while he insists on her eating vegetables. Mitsuru casually mentions getting into a car with those shady cops, dropping a massive bomb. Panic flares in Fuma's eyes as he lectures her on the dangers of trusting strangers. She pouts, insisting her reckless behavior was just born out of genuine concern for him. A soft, knowing smile crosses Fuma's face, his protective instincts finally settling down a bit. He tells her to keep eating while he heads back to the kitchen for more. Fuma fries up another batch of food, his mind clearly racing with dark, lingering thoughts. Picking up his phone, he makes a call to someone who can handle dirty work. Akai answers from his cluttered, monitor-filled lair, sounding way too cheerful for this late hour. Munching on a burger, the informant asks what could possibly be so urgent right now. Fuma keeps it brief, demanding a meeting at the cafe to dig into some secrets. Morning light hits the coffee shop, masking the dangerous web of lies being spun inside. Fuma watches a news report about bodies found in a factory, his expression turning grim. Reports confirm a woman was found mutilated, the grim reality of his war hitting home. Fuma is spiraling, convinced someone is scrubbing the evidence of that school disaster. Suddenly, a loud knock on the table snaps him out of his dark, brooding trance. In struts a flamboyant character, looking like they just raided a thrift store's clearance bin. Fuma literally spits out his drink, clearly not prepared for this fashion-forward, chaotic entrance. Staring in disbelief, he demands to know who this colorful disaster actually is. Delasso laughs, acting like the dramatic makeover is totally normal and not at all weird. Realizing who it is, Fuma loses his mind while Delasso gives him two enthusiastic thumbs up. Recovering his composure, Fuma tries to compliment the look while pivoting to the real mission. A fresh cup of coffee sits there, the only calm thing in this absolute circus. They huddle over a laptop, Fuma desperate for the intel Delasso promised to dig up. Plugging in a drive, Delasso gets to work, looking surprisingly focused for such a diva. Fingers fly across the keyboard, hacking through security like it is just a casual hobby. Delasso flashes the screen, showing off the results with the confidence of a pro hacker. Fuma stares at the dark web marketplace, horrified by the human cargo being sold there. Something on the screen catches his eye, a detail that makes his blood run cold. A listing for a high magic aptitude child pops up, the price tag hitting $1 billion. Delasso notes the high-end, complex nature of these specific targeted listings for each victim. Fuma finally connects the dots, realizing Mitsuru is being hunted for her raw, supernatural potential. Sipping coffee, Delasso waits for the next request, completely unfazed by the global human trafficking. Fuma asks for a safe house, but Delasso just sprays coffee everywhere in pure shock. Fuma and his contact are bickering over money, the ultimate barista-hustler dynamic in full swing. Begging for a break, Fuma puts on his best pathetic face to dodge the debt. Reluctantly, his contact agrees to help, but demands he stays off the radar for now. Warning him about the killer organization, she makes it clear his life is basically forfeit. Fuma's eyes blaze with lethal intent, swearing to hunt down every single threat to Mitsuru. Rikuhara Jr. High stands silent, a total ticking time bomb of supernatural drama and secrets. Mitsuru sits in class, totally zoned out while her classmates gossip about the new arrival. Heavy footsteps echo in the hallway, signaling that the status quo is about to shatter. Mysterious gaze locks onto the room, ready to introduce a brand new kind of chaos. Fujinohara steps up to the podium, announcing himself as the new homeroom teacher today. Smiling with way too much teeth, he promises to look after the grieving students personally. Girls in the class are already swooning, completely blind to the red flags waving everywhere. Mitsuru stares in awe, thinking this guy is actually cool instead of a total creep. Pointing a finger, Fuji singles out Akai for her supposed courage during the recent disaster. Calling her to the front, he puts the poor girl on the spot instantly. Akai walks up, apologizing for her instincts while accepting whatever punishment he deems fit. Fuji's expression twists into something predatory, his mask of kindness slipping for a split second. Clapping his hands, he demands the class applaud Akai, turning her into a weird example. Mitsuru bursts through her front door, totally oblivious to the nightmare unfolding at her school. Kicking off her shoes, she happily recounts how the new teacher actually praised her today. Mitsuru walks into the apartment, completely oblivious to the fact that Fuma is gone. She pauses, noticing the house is suspiciously empty and quiet for this time of day. A handwritten note sits on the table, claiming her dad has urgent business to handle. She glances at the meal he left behind, not realizing the danger he is facing. With a smug grin, she assumes he is just being his usual, overprotective self again. Meanwhile, a shady pachinko parlor glows in the sunset, hiding secrets behind its neon lights. Inside, Fuma confronts a group of thugs, his patience for their nonsense officially running out. He marches down the aisle, ready to turn this gambling den into a total wreck. Those goons look absolutely unhinged, their faces twisted into manic, terrifying grins of pure malice. Suddenly, red, tentacle-like energy erupts from the machines, signaling a truly supernatural, nightmare-fueled trap. A door-marked control room looms, promising answers about the source of this corruption. Some creepy, fanged entity preys in the shadows, its long claws dripping with dark intent. That monster stands before a pulsating, face-covered mass, clearly the mastermind behind this twisted operation. Fuma lights a cigarette, staring down the opposition while the tension hits a breaking point. Glass shatters as he launches a devastating attack, sending the thugs flying in every direction. Chaos erupts in the parlor, with Fuma clearing the floor like a total combat pro. He stands amidst the wreckage, his eyes burning with a cold, focused, and lethal intensity. This remaining goons surround him, screaming in panic while he prepares to finish them off. A rusted shaking machine catches his eye, clearly hiding something far more sinister than gambling. Realizing Delasso was right, Fuma knows this entire place is a front for dark magic. Fuma stands his ground, demanding answers while the goons lose their collective minds. Guns are drawn from every angle, but he looks bored by their pathetic intimidation. Demanding a meeting with Haikyum, he makes it clear he is done playing games. One thug presses a barrel to his head, clearly overestimating his own life expectancy. Fuma does not even flinch, just swatting the air like he's dealing with a fly. With a casual flick, he shatters their firearms into useless scrap metal, total power move. Panic erupts as the goons open fire, but their bullets do not stand a chance. Projectiles bounce off his aura, leaving the attackers realizing they picked the wrong target. Drawing his blade, Fuma prepares to end this farce before the coffee gets cold. Speeding through the room, he disarms the entire squad in a single, fluid motion. Steel flashes as he keeps the pressure on, making these goons regret their choices. A new voice booms out, ordering the chaos to stop before someone gets hurt. Fuma pauses, his sharp gaze locking onto the man stepping out of the shadows. Shuichi enters the fray, looking far too calm for a guy surrounded by wreckage. Introducing himself as the manager, he tries to smooth things over with a smile. An office door stands nearby, marking the transition from street brawl to boardroom politics. Shuichi plays the gracious host, serving tea as if he did not just watch carnage. Fuma sits with his sword, unimpressed by the hospitality of a suspected monster puppet. Cutting to the chase, the manager asks the million-dollar question about his true nature. They face off across the table, two predators waiting to see who blinks first. Fuma knows this guy is not Hyakume, but he's definitely tied to the shady organization. Sitting across from him, the manager and his creepy supernatural buddy watch Fuma closely. That skeleton-faced freak just grins, clearly enjoying the tension in this weird, heated meeting. Fuma blinks, wondering if he's hallucinating the bizarre, shifting energy filling the entire room. Rubbing his eyes, he tries to focus while the manager keeps his cool, totally unfazed. Gesturing casually, the manager tells Fuma he does not need to answer any of his questions. He claims killers belong underground, but admits Fuma's aura is honestly pretty impressive for today. Offering a deal, the manager promises to grant any wish if Fuma just plays nice. Keeping the peace is the goal, provided Fuma stops interfering with their lucrative little business. Fuma sips his coffee, finally deciding to lay his cards on the table right now. Demanding the boss's head, he makes his intentions crystal clear to the stunned manager. Pointing his finger, he reminds the guy of his promise to grant any wish. A dark smirk creeps across the manager's face, signaling that the pleasantries are officially over. Screaming insults, he pulls a gun on Fuma, proving he has zero chill whatsoever. Fuma does not even flinch, swatting the bullet away like it's just a pesky, annoying fly. In a blur of motion, he lunges forward, blade ready to slice through the nonsense. One clean strike later, the manager is missing an arm and bleeding everywhere. Collapsing in agony, the guy wails about his lost limb while Fuma stands over him. Desperate and furious, the manager screams for his goons to swarm and take Fuma out. Armed thugs rush in, ready to turn this boardroom into a total, chaotic bloodbath. Fuma readies his blade, eyes locked on the goons who thought they could win. Slashing through the room like a whirlwind, he leaves the thugs in total disarray. One survivor gasps in disbelief, watching his boss get absolutely wrecked by our guy. Fuma reaches out, his aura crackling with enough intensity to make the air scream. Striking the space between them, he hits an invisible wall that stops his momentum. Tension spikes as they lock eyes, the realization of a hidden barrier sinking in. Fuma grips his sword tighter, wondering what kind of twisted magic is at play. That invisible shield holds firm, protecting the manager from a well-deserved lethal finishing blow. Sensing the shift in energy, Fuma looks up to see the real threat emerging. A skeletal, multi-eyed entity steps into the light, mocking him with a sinister grin. This monster taunts Fuma, acting like he's the one who's lost his moral compass. Warning him about his path to hell, the creature drips with pure, unadulterated malice. Fuma screams back, demanding to know if this thing is the one who kidnapped Mitsuru. This monster ignores the outburst, calmly planting its staff to begin a dark ritual. Purple energy swirls around the creature, forming a massive, glowing seal on the floor. Chanting in a forgotten tongue, the beast prepares to unleash a truly devastating spell. Shockwaves ripple through the room as the barrier expands, threatening to crush everything inside. Fuma stares in horror, realizing the sheer scale of the power he is facing. Bracing himself, he channels his own energy into a desperate final stand against magic. Unleashing a massive shockwave, he forces the spell to backfire, sending the goons flying. Fuma digs his heels into the floor, bracing against the crushing weight of magic. Raising his blade high, he lets out a primal roar to shatter the supernatural hold. With a massive swing, he tears through the air, forcing the barrier to finally buckle. That skeletal entity watches in surprise, its smug confidence starting to crack under the pressure. Energy lines snap like overstretched rubber bands, leaving the monster exposed and wide open. Light fades from the creature's eyes as the ritual collapses into a heap of failure. Fuma stands amidst the dissipating smoke, his eyes locked on the remaining terrified targets. Complaining about the annoying barrier, he looms over the beaten thugs like a total menace. Scanning the room, he spots the exit sign and realizes the path is finally clear. A quick, decisive slash clears the remaining debris, leaving no room for any more games. Realizing the tide has turned, the manager's face pales as he weighs his pathetic options. Panic takes the wheel, and the manager bolts for the door like a scared rat. Scrambling toward the window, he desperately tries to put some distance between him and Fuma. Hanging off the ledge, he decides that a high-altitude jump is his only escape route. Sweat drips down his face as he realizes there is absolutely nowhere left to hide. Fuma catches him by the collar, yanking him back from the brink with zero mercy. Slamming the guy onto the floor, he makes sure the manager stays put this time. Pressing a boot into the manager's chest, Fuma demands the truth about the missing girl. Pointing his sword at the throat of the coward, he demands the location of Hyakume. Cornered and broken, the manager finally prepares to spill the secrets he tried to protect. Fuma demands the location of the ledger, offering the thug a chance to survive. Standing before the industrial complex, he prepares to storm the enemy's secret hideout. Checking the perimeter, he finds the area surprisingly quiet, a classic setup for trouble. Moving through the shadows, Fuma and his contacts scan the dark, abandoned factory grounds. Something catches his attention, a sudden noise breaking the heavy, unnatural silence of night. Spotting a fallen guard, he realizes the enemy is already aware of his arrival. Rushing to the scene, Fuma checks on the down man, his guard raised high. Swiftly, he takes down an ambush, his blade moving faster than the eye follows. Leaving the goons unconscious, he stands over them, ready to push deeper inside now. Taunted by the enemy, Fuma learns the ledger is waiting in the heart of. Pushing open the heavy steel doors, he steps into the belly of the beast. Dozens of hostile eyes lock onto him, the factory floor swarming with armed thugs. Ignoring the crowd, he charges straight ahead, his focus locked on the main target. Catching a thug off guard, Fuma delivers a brutal strike, clearing his immediate path. Panic spreads among the mob as they realize their numbers mean absolutely nothing today. Slicing through the opposition, he disarms the attackers with surgical, cold, and lethal precision. Grabbing a goon by the throat, Fuma tosses him aside like a discarded toy. Surrounded by the remaining mob, he stands his ground, his apron stained with blood. Sprinting toward the stairs, he prepares to cut down anyone standing in his way. Challenging the entire room, Fuma screams for them to come at him all together. Fuma stares down the mob, asking if they really think they can take him. With a single, brutal swing, he sends the thugs flying in every direction, total overkill. Bodies hit the floor as Fuma maintains his stance, barely breaking a sweat today. He pivots with lethal grace, his blade cutting through the air like a hot knife. Those remaining goons look terrified, realizing their baseball bats are just glorified toothpicks right now. Fuma dances through their ranks, parrying every weak strike with effortless, cold-blooded efficiency. Heads roll as the fight turns into a complete massacre, his patience officially gone. One survivor clutches a severed head in pure unadulterated shock. Talk about a bad day. Panic sets in as the goons scramble for the exit, screaming for their lives. Reinforcements arrive on the stairs, hoping to swarm him while he is still occupied. Fuma does not hesitate, driving his sword through the first guy to reach the top. Silence falls over the hallway as the rest of the mob freezes in terror. Still, they charge forward, driven by a suicidal urge to stop our favorite barista. He watches them with bored eyes, ready to turn this staircase into a meat grinder. Ducking under a wild swing, Fuma prepares to deliver the final, crushing blow. One thug tries to warn his buddy, but it is already way too late. Blood sprays across the walls as Fuma finishes the job with a single slash. He walks toward the final door, his apron stained but his resolve perfectly intact. Peering around the corner, he finds a gunman waiting for an ambush that fails. Fuma strikes before the guy can even blink, ending the threat with surgical precision. Fuma corners the last goon, who is absolutely losing his mind in pure terror. With his blade drawn, Fuma demands the ledger while the thug trembles in fear. Threatening him with a swift end, Fuma makes it clear that time is running out. Terrified, the goon scrambles to obey, desperate to keep his head attached to his shoulders. A hand reaches for the safe, fumbling with the dial under Fuma's intense, watchful gaze. Handing over the document, the thug prays that this will finally buy his pathetic life. Fuma flips through the pages, his eyes widening as he sees the horrific tribute list. Realizing the gravity of what he holds, he grips his sword with white-knuckled, lethal intensity. A specific entry catches his eye, the next delivery is marked for the blood eye. Fuma realizes the threat is immediate, his expression hardening into a mask of cold fury. Screaming for the thug to drop dead, he unleashes his pent-up rage in one motion. With a single, devastating slash, Fuma tears through the room, leaving nothing but absolute wreckage. Blood Eye is the target, and the realization hits him like a freight train today. Mitsuru is the one they are after, and Fuma is ready to burn everything down. Planting his boot on the fallen thug, he makes sure the trash stays down permanently. Stepping out into the night, Fuma heads toward the warehouse to save his little sister. Lurking in the shadows, a skeletal figure watches him approach with a truly creepy grin. This monster whispers that fate is already sealed, clearly enjoying the chaos he has sown. Fuma pauses, sensing a shift in the air as he locks onto the hidden threat. Staring at the dark warehouse, he prepares to face whatever nightmare awaits him inside tonight. Fuma stares into the void, his mind racing with the grim reality of his mission. Rikuhara Junior High looms, a quiet place hiding a massive, supernatural trafficking operation in plain sight. Students shuffle through the hallway, completely oblivious to the predators stalking their halls for fresh meat. Mitsuru lets out a massive yawn, her exhaustion masking the dark influence creeping into her daily life. Her friend notices the fatigue, unaware that this lethargy is a symptom of a much deeper curse. Mitsuru brushes off the sleepiness, not realizing she's being marked for a very specific dark purpose. A nurse calls her name, her professional mask hiding the predatory intent of an agent of chaos. Mitsuru skips toward the office, happy to get a checkup while walking straight into a deadly trap. Inside the room, the nurse waits, her posture radiating a cold, calculated, and truly sinister energy. She orders Mitsuru to undress, her smile barely concealing the hunger of a monster in human skin. Mitsuru complies without a second thought, her innocence making her the perfect target for these sickos. This nurse inserts an earpiece, signaling her handlers that the prize is finally in the bag. Finishing the exam, she dismisses the girl, acting like this was just a routine school visit. Mitsuru bows politely, completely unaware that she just signed her own death warrant with that nurse. This nurse gloats, holding a file with Mitsuru's photo as if she just won the lottery. A red circle marks Mitsuru's name on the list, confirming she is the next high-value tribute. Back at the apartment, the sun sets, casting long shadows over the home Fuma is trying to protect. Fuma cooks dinner, his focus intense as he plans to intercept the next delivery of victims. Stirring the pot, he plots his ambush, determined to catch the monsters at their handoff point. Suddenly, he burns his tongue on the soup, his tough guy persona crumbling into a hilarious, painful mess. Fuma strolls back into the apartment, completely unaware of the chaos waiting for him. Mitsuru greets him with a yawn, claiming she is too tired to eat right now. Concerned by her weird behavior, Fuma asks what is actually bothering his little sister. Silence follows his question, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with steel. One day later, Fuma stands outside a suspicious club, ready to hunt for some answers. Walking inside, he finds a bunch of goons sparring like they are in a gym. He marches past the thugs, his presence alone making the entire room go dead silent. Pushing open a heavy door, he steps into the back area where the real action happens. Someone shouts for the goons to finish him, clearly underestimating our favorite angry barista dad. A massive crowd cheers as two fighters clash inside a cage, bloodlust in their eyes. This muscular fighter lands a brutal combo, his red gloves painting the air with violence. With a sickening crack, he delivers a devastating uppercut that sends his opponent flying backward. Mob members scream for the finisher, acting like they are watching a high-stakes gladiator match. That hulking brute wins up for a final blow, his face twisted in pure malice. A single crushing punch decapitates his opponent, the gore flying across the entire cage floor. Celebrating the kill, the winner raises his arms while the crowd loses their collective minds. Fuma watches the monster with narrowed eyes, recognizing that familiar, predatory look in his gaze. Standing at the edge of the cage, Fuma holds his sword, ready to end this. This winner taunts him with a sick grin, clearly eager to add another head tonight. Fuma draws his blade with a cold HMPH, finally ready to slice through the nonsense. Fuma stares down the massive fighter, his eyes scanning for any sign of weakness. Energy crackles around the cage as the brute prepares to unleash a flurry of blows. Light reflects off Fuma's blade, his stance shifting into a lethal, ready-to-strike position. Calling out the truth, Fuma accuses the fighter of being a puppet for a monk. That hulking brute ignores the taunt, launching a wild, heavy punch straight at Fuma's face. Dodging with ease, Fuma counters with a swift strike that lands right on target. Shock registers on the fighter's face as his assault is completely shut down by Fuma. Spinning through the air, Fuma keeps the pressure on with a series of precise slashes. Multiple phantom punches manifest from the fighter, turning the cage into a chaotic blur. Steel meets glove as Fuma parries the onslaught, refusing to let the monster gain ground. Blocking a crushing blow, Fuma holds his ground while the cage shakes from the impact. Slicing through the fighter's guard, Fuma forces the brute to retreat and rethink his strategy. Locking eyes, Fuma keeps his sword steady, waiting for the perfect moment to end this. Suddenly, the fighter grabs Fuma by the throat, his grip tightening with supernatural, crushing force. Struggling to breathe, Fuma realizes the brute's strength is far beyond a normal human's limit. This crowd goes wild, oblivious to the dark, magical corruption fueling this brutal cage match. Looking past the fighter, Fuma spots the real mastermind watching from the shadows with glee. That skeletal monk grins, chanting a dark spell while clutching his string of prayer beads. Anger flares in Fuma's eyes, his resolve hardening as he realizes the true, hidden threat. Fighting back against the chokehold, Fuma prepares to break free and take the monk down. Fuma engages the hulking brute, trading blows in a high-stakes dance of pure violence. Swiftly dodging a heavy swing, he creates distance to keep the momentum on his side. Landing a precise strike, Fuma cuts through the fighter's guard with his trusty steel blade. That massive opponent tries a desperate counter, but Fuma sees the opening in his eyes. With a calculated move, he shuts down the brute's assault before it can even land. This fighter screams in agony as Fuma's strike finds its mark, leaving him totally blinded. Suddenly, a mysterious monk appears, surrounded by a swarm of faceless, mindless combat puppets. That creepy monk just smirks, clearly enjoying the chaos he has orchestrated in this ring. Charging through the mob, Fuma prepares to cut down the real threat behind the curtain. He shouts for the monk to halt, his blade ready to end this twisted game. Sprinting across the room, Fuma pursues the elusive target as he attempts a quick escape. That monk leaps toward a wall painting, seemingly vanishing into the artwork itself. Wild stuff. This painting ripples with magical energy, leaving Fuma staring at a completely empty wall. Stunned by the sudden disappearance, Fuma realizes he's been played by a master of illusions. A taunting message echoes through the room, demanding he visit the monk's quarters for answers. Fuma narrows his eyes, his resolve hardening as he accepts the challenge to save Mitsuru. Energy surges from the wall, revealing a hidden portal to the enemy's true lair. Beyond the gate, a terrifying, eye-covered entity waits on a pedestal of dark, pulsating magic. That monstrous mass of eyes pulses with malice, signaling the final boss of this nightmare. Fuma grips his sword, a cold, lethal grin spreading across his face. Game on, monster. Fuma leaps into the fray, his blade singing a song of pure, unadulterated violence. That sacred gate shatters under his strike, revealing the true, eye-covered horror lurking behind. He screams that they are not getting away, his focus locked on the ultimate target. Rikuhara Jr. High stands silent, a total ticking time bomb of supernatural drama and secrets. Mitsuru lets out a massive yawn, her exhaustion masking the dark influence creeping into her. Sitting in class, she feels completely drained, unaware that her life force is being drained. Pain flashes across her face, a symptom of the curse taking root in her soul. Her classmate notices the struggle, asking if she is okay while the trap slowly closes. Shinkai stares with genuine worry, her glasses reflecting the growing danger surrounding her best friend. Pointing out how pale she looks, the friend tries to get her to seek help. Mitsuru rubs her dry, tired eyes, blaming her lack of sleep for the weird symptoms. Suggesting the nurse's office, Shinkai pushes her toward the very person hunting her down today. That school nurse watches from the shadows, her predatory gaze fixed on the vulnerable girl. Shinkai tells her to wipe off the sweat, oblivious to the looming, supernatural death sentence. Suddenly, the friend brightens up, offering some sweets to help calm her down right now. Mitsuru accepts the snack with a smile, totally blind to the manipulation unfolding around her. Waving her hand, Shinkai suggests a little walk to clear her head of the fog. Asking if she wants to hit the roof, the friend lures her into isolation. Mitsuru agrees with a naive nod, walking straight into the jaws of the waiting monster. Watching from the doorway, the nurse prepares to claim her prize in the quiet shadows. This school nurse reveals a dark, mysterious tattoo, clearly hiding some seriously twisted secrets. A tiny bat-like creature emerges from her clothing, whispering into her ear like a spy. That creepy bat confirms the coast is clear, leaving the nurse looking totally unbothered. She asks the creature for a status report, her office glowing with ominous supernatural light. Everything seems stable with their barrier and mono waves, but she senses a lingering problem. Shinkai's aura is way too steady, which clearly makes the nurse suspicious of the girl. Fuma arrives at a massive blood-red altar, ready to face the source of this corruption. A skeletal monk stands before him, claiming that entering this sanctuary is pure, unadulterated blasphemy. That monster mocks Fuma for chasing them all the way here, calling him a fool. Fuma does not care about their twisted rules, his sword glowing as he prepares for combat. He demands to know their plan for the high magic children they have been kidnapping lately. Pointing his blade at the altar, Fuma asks what kind of sick ritual is happening. That skeletal freak just laughs in his face, clearly enjoying the tension of this moment. This monk starts walking up the steps, asking what a mortal could possibly understand. With a flick of his wrist, the monk summons a glowing blue spirit of energy. Suddenly, the entire room erupts in a swirling vortex of blood-red, magical, tentacle-like energy. Dozens of floating eyes appear, all meant to serve as nourishment for the entity Hyakume. This monk screams for his minions to attack, unleashing the swarm of eyes on Fuma. Fuma finds himself completely surrounded by the barrage of red, pulsating, and magical projectiles. Bracing for the impact, he grips his sword tight, ready to cut through the nightmare. Fuma tears through the swarm, his blade carving a path through the sea of eyes. That skeletal monk watches with a twisted smirk, clearly unimpressed by our boy's frantic effort. Closing the distance, Fuma lunges forward, desperate to land a hit on the elusive, robed target. Red energy spirals out of control as the monk unleashes a final, chaotic magical storm.